Hey everyone, Tony D with another webcomic profile. This time we're going to talk about Lester Crenshaw is Dead and Lester Crenshaw is Still Dead. Two graphic novels you can read pretty much in full at the Webcomic Factory. The first one, Lester Crenshaw is Dead, is complete, over 100 pages. And then the second installment, we're up to 96 pages. We're updating every Sunday and it will be completed in 9 weeks. So check that out. It is illustrated by Yi Wang. Yi has illustrated the entire run of both comics, and he's just got a great style, which I love. It's so elegant, simple, yet very detailed at the same time. That's the only way I can describe it. Now, the comic itself. As it said here on the character bios, it's a story of Lester Crenshaw, a reluctant vampire who never really got the hang of his powers. And that's true. He is a comic book geek who goes on an internet date and gets killed by a vampire, but in the process, he accidentally kills her. And the idea for the death of the vampire and how it happens is this. I was at someone's house and they had this elaborate, crazy table, and it was glass with like antlers underneath it holding it up. And the antlers were very pointy. And I thought, well, that's strange. Like, why did you buy that table? Like, how many deer died for you to buy that? Just joking around. And they said, no, those are made of wood. And I thought, if a vampire fell on that, that could be very bad for them. So that's kind of what happens. The vampire has one of these tables. They think it's like, well, it's antlers, it's fine, but it turns out no, it's actually made of wood, and the vampire ends up falling on the table, breaking it, and getting skewered, and in the process of killing Lester. So, but there's more to it than that. You have to read the book. I don't want to give too much away. But Lester is a comic book geek. This is him here, Lester Crenshaw. And he is a comic book geek and failed comedy writer, stuck living in the basement of his father and stepmother's house. So he's always emasculated. His sister, technically his half-sister, Dawn, has to help him be a vampire. And that is an interesting dynamic to me. Like, what if your sister has to help you be a vampire? Like, vampires are supposed to be cool and with it and together, but he's not. He just doesn't know what he's doing. And so Dawn helps him, and also his stepmother, Sheila. Oh, wrong page. Sheila. You can see her here folding laundry on a pool table. She is folding the laundry. This house, by the way, is based on not my house, but a friend of mine had a house like this. He had a basement where he had a pool table, which we used to tease him that it was always had laundry on it, and he had like a record player down there, typical basement stuff. I think there was a bar down there too. And he also had a room that was just off the basement, which I gave that similar room to Lester, and a sort of split level. And even when Yi was drawing the book, I gave him the address of my friend's old house. He doesn't live there anymore. And I said, yeah, use this for the front of the house. So it's my friend's old house. And I thought it was funny to just put his house in there. But anyhow, in the first book, it's all about Lester becoming a vampire and kind of becoming a man, having to learn to be like a man. And the other vampire main character in the book is this guy, Vic Venture. And Vic has been a vampire for a while, but he's also, he was turned into a vampire back in the 40s, and he's a classic 40s private eye, and, hard drinking, hard talking private eye. Hey, sweetheart, like that guy. And I used to play Vic as a character in the Vampire LARP, and I used to play him exactly how he is in the book. He's all bravado. I mean, he's got he's got a gun. He can fight, but he's not super powerful like some of the other vampires are. And he would call the vampires coffin jockeys. You coffin jockeys, what are you doing? And he would have shots of bourbon with blood in them, and the bartender in the vampire club would say, "Can I redden that for you, sir?" And they would put blood in the whiskey so they could drink it. And so it's kind of like all about Vic's and well Lester's through Vic his introduction into vampire society, and then in the sequel, Lester is kind of got it together, and you can see him here taking an Uber back to where he works at night, and the second story is about it's sort of vampire versus ghost. We have a ghost that has returned to kill his uncle Josh, who's a Vietnam vet, and the members of his old unit. And Lester's trying to save him, but he runs into this is JD, the Jersey Devil from my old print comics, and he's a character that I wrote for many years, and he's appeared in a bunch of things. So JD is back, and in this one, JD, he has always lived in the Pine Barrens, and he can see the ghost of anyone who's ever died in the Pine Barrens, and because this goes along with the idea that the Pine Barrens is cursed. The Indians, the Lenni Lenape, believed that the area was cursed because they couldn't grow any crops, and because it was very sandy, and there's all sorts of scientific reasons for why you can't really grow much in the Pine Barrens, and they were sort of forced to live there. They eventually left, and I believe they all moved out west. But so the Pine Barrens has this history to it, and that's JD's part. But he's there to try to bring the ghost back. He's trying to undo the damage that ghost does, and that's something he used to do in the comic. And so he has to team up with Lester, who has sort of these powers. And then another one of the characters is this guy named Wembley, who's Lester's old buddy from his Dungeons and Dragons days, his high school days. And Wembley was like a cool guy back in the day, but he can't get his life together. He's a total mess. His other friends are all working; they have kids, and he's just he's just living in his car. And he ends up after a party, he ends up staying over at Lester's house and on the couch, and it's just got kind of sad. But he gets caught up in this this whole ghost thing, and Dawn has a history with him, and there's a whole page about her, and she had a high school crush on him, but it never came to fruition. So it's all about these characters who have this this history, and throughout the story, in the fight with the ghost, we get to sort of unfurl that, and Vic comes back in this one too, although he's not really in it all that much. So a lot of cool stuff here. I had a great time writing it. Yi is just an amazing artist. This is a few years worth of work, definitely for him and for me. He does everything. He does the illustrations. He does the lettering, the shading, the whole thing. I do all the writing and the posting. So it's posted every Sunday at the webcomicfactory.com. I will leave links to page 1 of both books in the description. You could start reading. You could definitely read through the first one. If you want to wait 9 weeks, you could read through the second one, or you could read up to what we have so far. I think you'll enjoy it. It's comedy. It's horror. There's a lot of family. There's a little family in that. Not a lot, little. Some drama, and some ghost supernatural stuff. Some scary moments, I think. And I think you'll like it. I mean, it's one of my favorite comics. We also have a print version of the first book available. Lester Crenshaw is Dead. You can get still some of it on Amazon. It was published by Comic Mix. I'm not sure if it's still on their site, but you can check it out. And thank you for tuning in to the latest webcomic profile. We'll see you next time.